Can someone tell me whether you can hear me or whether you can see my slides?
Good
Yes,
morning.
ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, let's start. Uh, so then today we will be talking about the marketing concepts that you should learn when it comes to your module. So we'll be starting with the chapter one. That is, in this particular chapter, we will be discussing about some of the core concepts and the fundamental concepts of marketing and also the definition and all those stuff, right? So we assume that you don't have any kind of a marketing knowledge, and we will be starting from the beginning point. So the people who know marketing, people who have studied before, so they might be finding this module a little bit easy for them. But still, we have to start from the first step, as this is the so we have to go from the fundamental level. So when we're talking about the marketing, so first what we try to do is to get the definition of the marketing. So when I'm talking about the marketing, so if I ask from you what does it mean by marketing for you? So probably you might be saying that it's selling, it's advertising, and it's like compelling people to buy something that they don't want. So there may be lots of different perception that might comes from your end. But when it comes to the marketing, it's little different from selling, as well as it's not something that you try to compel people to buy something that they don't want. And so when it comes to the marketing, it has a kind of a broad definition. So just before we get the definition of the marketing, so I think that it's better to get an idea about the core concepts of the marketing. Marketing වල definition එක හදන්න කලින් මම හිතනවා marketing වල තියෙන වචන කීපයක් අපි දැනගෙන හිටියොත් so it's easy for us to uh, prepare our own definition for the marketing, right? So rather than just go through the definition. So this is the definition, but first we are going to talk about the concepts and the words that you should know in order to uh, build this definition, right? So let's talk about these core concepts. So when we talk about the core concepts marketing, so here you are finding that five core concepts in marketing. So actually these five core concepts that they comes as a result for five major questions, right? ප්‍රශ්න පහකට උත්තර විදිහට දුන්නාම තමයි මෙන්න මේ core concepts පහ හැදෙන්නේ. So first let's talk about what are these five questions and then talk about these five answers, which is known as the core marketing concept. So the first question is that why people are buying things. Right? Pinsu purchase karani. So the first concept is that why people are buying things. So you have to understand why people are buying things, because once you get up in the early morning, right? So if you just think about yourself, that you have some needs and wants, right? So you have your requirements, right? So in order to fulfill as a human being. So once you get up in the early morning, you wash your face, you use a face wash or a kind of a soap for that. Then also you brush your teeth, then you need a toothpaste and a toothbrush. Then you eat something, you need food, you drink something, you need something to drink because you're thirsty. So these are requirements, right? So you need a place to stay, you need something to dress. So these are your basic needs. So you need have some needs and requirements in order to fulfill. So this is why people are buying things. People are buying things because that they have needs. So needs, in a sense, the fundamental requirements that you need, that you should fulfill in order to live your life, right? So you feel hungry, you feel thirsty, you need place to stay. So these are your needs. So when it comes to the needs, Lamai, that they can be extended up to the level which is known as the wants. So what are the differences between the needs and wants? Wants වෙනස් වෙනවා needs වලින් little bit, because needs ගත්තාම needs වලට limitations තියෙනවා. So you feel hungry, so you eat something. So it has a limitation. But when it comes to wants, that they have no limitation. So it might go beyond the needs and it has no scope actually. So when we're talking about the wants, so that අපි ගත්තොත් need එකක් කියන එක හැමතිස්සෙම need එක always shape up by your personality as well as the place you stay and your disposable income and everything. For an example, when you feel hungry, so whether you are going to eat rice and curry or a kind of a burger or a kind of a pizza, or whether you go to a kind of a fine restaurant and have a fine dining experience. So that is depends on your personality, your disposable income, as well as your culture. So that has to be taken into remarks, right? ඒ කියන්නේ අපි හිතමු ඔයාට බඩගිනි වුණාම ඔයා කන්නේ රයිස් ඇන්ඩ් කරිද ඔයා බර්ගර් එකක් කනවද පිට්සා එකක් කනවද ඒ කියන හැමදේම නැත්තම් ඔයා මොකමද රෙස්ටෝරන්ට් එකකට ගිහලා කිංස්බරි හරි මොකමද රෙස්ටෝරන්ට් එකට ගිහිල්ලා ඩයිනින් එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් එකක් ගන්නවද කියන එක තීරණය වෙන්නේ ඔයාගේ ඩිස්පෝසබල් ඉන්කම් එක මත ඔයාගේ පර්සනැලිටි එක මත ඔයගොල්ලෝ කෙලින් අපි හැමතිස්සෙම එළියට ගිහිල්ලා ඩිනර් ගන්න හරි ලන්ච් ගන්න හරි පුරුදු වෙලා තියෙනවද ඒ කල්චර් එක අපිට තියෙනවද so that makes your wants. So the wants that's always I mean wants means that wants comes from the human needs that shaped by the culture and the individual personality. For an example, so if you just think about when you feel thirsty, probably you might feel like that you're going to drink a Coca-Cola. So that depends on your personality as well as your lifestyle and your culture. Because if you're a person who don't like to drink soft drink or carbonated drinks, right? So if you're a kind of a person who's healthy conscious, so you won't buy Coca-Cola. So that's how it comes, right? So you might go for another option like a tea, coffee, latte, or a kind of juice, fresh juice, rather than a Coca-Cola. So the wants that they are always shaped up by the culture and individual personality. So, as we talk about the needs and wants, there is another concept that we have to talk under this particular section. So that is demand. Right? So the demand, in a sense, so the needs and wants always create a demand. You know that when it comes to a business, right? So, as a producer, so once you produce a product or service, so still you cannot make a profit if you do not sell it to the customer. Right? Customer කෙනෙක් ඔයාගේ product එක purchase කරනකල් ඔයාට profit එකක් create කරගන්න බෑ. So when we're talking about the customer, whether they make the purchase, so that makes you the demand for your product or service. So what's the difference between the demand, needs, and wants? So when you know already what is the difference between the needs and wants, so now we have to get an idea about the demands. Sometimes, so you have a want, right? So I mean that you would like to buy something, but still you cannot buy it because you don't have the purchasing capacity. So normally we say that in order to complete the purchase that you should fulfill two criteria. So the first thing is that you should have the willingness to purchase. පළවෙනි එක තමයි අපිට willingness එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ purchase කරන්න. අනිත් එක තමයි අපිට capacity එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ. For an example, now feel that you would like to drink a Coca-Cola, right? So you like to drink. And also you should have money to buy Coca-Cola to create a demand. Suppose if you don't like to buy Coca-Cola, but you have money, then still you do not make a demand, right? ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයා කැමති වුණොත් ඔය ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයා කැමති නැත්තම් ඔයාට සල්ලි තිබුණත් ඔයා ඒක ගන්නෙ නෑ. හරිද? ඔයාට ඔයා කැමති වුණොත් ඔයාට සල්ලි නැත්තම් ගන්න බෑ. So in order to create demand, you should have money and also you should be able to purchase it. The purchasing capacity should be there. Right? So that's what we call the demand. So the human wants always back up by the buying power or the purchasing capacity. So this is the first question. So this is the first question. So that is why people are buying things or motivate customers to purchase things. So this is the first core concept that is the needs, wants, and the demands. So let's go to the next question, right? So the next question is that what will satisfy the consumer's need and wants, right? So what will satisfy the consumer needs and wants? So now you know that the consumers that they have needs and wants and they create demand. So how can you satisfy their needs and wants? So when it comes to the organization, so that is something very simple that they produce the products and services in order to satisfy the human needs and wants. සාමාන්‍ය organization එකක් මොකක් හරි product එකක් අපි කියන්නේ as a whole ගත්තම අපි කියන්නේ product කියලා. product එකක් හදලා තමයි මිනිස්සුන්ගේ needs and wants fulfill කරන්නේ. අපි කිව්වේ උදේ පාන්දර අපිට face wash එකක් හරි කන්න මොන හරි නැත්නම් toothpaste එකක්, toothbrush එකක්, tea එක හදන්න sugar, ඊළඟට tea and the milk powder. We need some products, right? So යන්නේ in the vehicle එකක්. So these are the products and also sometimes you need some services. product කිව්වහම ඒක ඇතුලේ තියෙන there are many components, right? So the product එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් මිනිස්සෙක්, right? So when it comes to this lecture, so it is delivered by a particular lecturer. So that there is a person who gives you this particular product. It comes in the form of a service. Right? ඊළඟට ප්ලේස් එකක් කරොත් අපි මොකක් හරි රෙස්ටෝරන්ට් එකකට යනවා නම් එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි ටූරිස්ට් ඩෙස්ටිනේෂන් එකකට යනවා නම් අපි සීගිරිය යනවා කියලා හිතන්නේ ආපහුවට යනවා කියලා කියන්නේ it's a kind of a place. And also can be an organization. Product can comes in different form. Right? Anyway, whatever this product, that might be a service, that might be a good, that might be a person, that might be an organization. So anything that satisfies the human needs and wants, right? So that's known as a product. So anything that can be offered to the market for their attention, that they can acquire them, that they can get the ownership and they use it and they consume it in order to satisfy their needs and wants, right? So that's known as product. So product can be something like a person, place, organization, or can be a good that you can touch it, like your phone, like your toothpaste, like anything that you use, and also it can be a service, right? Like a banking service and an airline service, a kind of a haircut that you're going to go to a salon and have, right? So all these stuff are products and service. So that is the next concept. So what will satisfy consumers' needs? And also those are the products and service. So let's go to our third question, right? So the third question is that when you comes to the market, right? So as the consumers, you know that the number of options that you have. So suppose that you're going to buy a toothpaste, right? So think about the number of toothpaste brands in the market. Market එකේ තියෙන toothpaste brands ගන්න හිතන්න. ඒ ඔක්කොම brands වලින් ඔය එක toothpaste එකක් ගන්නවා. So why you are buying a particular one brand among the other brands? So this is what we have to understand. How do the consumers choose among the products and services? So when we buy something that gives us value, right? Then අපි ගත්තාම vehicles තියෙනවානේ range එකක් අපි ගත්තොත් commercial vehicles Toyota තියෙනවා Honda තියෙනවා දැන් අලුතින් EV models ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. So there are range of models. Right? So the Nissan තියෙනවා, right? So among these commercial models මම කියන්නේ, right? So semi luxury නෙවෙයි. So when we talk about this commercial models, so why people buy a particular brand? Because that brand has a value for the people, consumers. So this is why they buy that particular product. Again, when you pay for that particular product, you compare that whether you will be getting benefit with compared to the cost that you bear. මං ගෙවන ගානට සාධින benefit එකක් මට එනවද කියන එක හැමතිස්සෙම consumer compare කරනවා. So the customer always that they think about the benefits that the customer gain from having that particular having and using that particular product compared to the cost that they have had for that particular product, right? So when we're talking about the market, so we call this as the customer value. So sometimes the people, when we're talking about the toothpaste, right? So sometimes people buy the Signal, sometimes they go for Sudanta, sometimes they go for the Colgate, sometimes they might buy Colgate. So because they know that particular toothpaste has a value for them. A price value. So normally when we're talking about the other toothpaste, people pay substantially, considerably, little bit, little more amount for the Sensodyne වගේ එකක් ගත්තාම ඒකට පොඩ්ඩක් වැඩිපුර ගෙවනවා. But still people buy that because they have some value in it, right? So this is what we call as the customer value. And also we have to understand something called customer satisfaction. So when we're talking about the customer satisfaction, so we talk about two perspectives. Again, customer satisfaction so we have to talk about the quality of the product, right? So when we're talking about the satisfaction, so it's always depend with the quality. Customer satisfaction again, so when we're talking about the customer that they have something called expectation. So just before you buy the particular product, you have a kind of an expectation. For an example, just think. Just before you buy your mobile phone, you have some expectation. Make a perform කරන්න මේක durability එක මෙහෙම තියෙයි මේ විදිහට මේක මේ විදිහට ස්පීඩ් එකක් තියෙවාට ඒ විදිහේ expectation ටිකක් තියෙනවා ඔයාගේ phone එකකින් හරි ඔයා මොකක් හරි purchase කරනකොට ඔයාගේ laptop එක හරි ඕනම product එකක් ඒ කියන්නේ පුංචි ඉඳන් ඒ කියන්නේ එදිනෙදා පාවිච්චි කරන FMCG product එකකින් නම් fast moving consumer good එකකින් නම් ඕනම product එකක ඔයා පාවිච්චි කරනකොට you have some, just before you purchase, you have some expectation. එතකොට මේ expectations ගත්තාම ළමයි දැන් ඒ ඇවිල්ලා පාවිච්චි කරන්න කලින්නේ. So once you purchase it, whatever you perceive, that value is known as the perceived value. Silapati expected value. So the true experience that you get from your consumption, so that is known as the perceived value. So whether the customer is satisfied or not. So that is depend on the expected and the perceived value. Customer satisfied නැද්ද කියන එක තීරණය වෙන්නේ යාගේ expected value එකේ perceived value එක අතර වෙනසයි. දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදිහට ඔයා හිතන්නකෝ මම බැංක් එකට යනවා වැඩක් කරගන්න මම හිතනවා මට පැය භාගයකින් මේ වැඩේ කරගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. හැබැයි මේ වැඩේ කරන්න පැයක් ගියොත් මම satisfied නැහැ. මොකද මම හිතුවා පැය භාගයකින් කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා. So that was my expectation. But once I go there, that I could finish it within 1 hour. So it took 1 hour. So my perceived value is less than my expected value. So then I become a dissatisfied customer. Suppose this happened. Mama හිතුවේ පැය භාගයකින් හැබැයි මම ගියාට පස්සේ පැය කාලයකට කරලා sorry පැය භාගයකින්ම හරියට කරලා ඉවරුණා. So then my expected value equals to my perceived value. So then what happens? I'm becoming satisfied customers. අර වෙලාවේදී dissatisfied වෙනවා because my expected value was more than my perceived value. So I became dissatisfied. So then thereafter what happened? My expected value is equals to my perceived value. Then I become a satisfied customer. So I thought that it will take 30 minutes, but I could finish it within 15 minutes. මට පුළුවන් වුණා විනාඩි 15කින් මේක ඉවර කරගන්න. දැක්කද වෙන්නේ? මම හිතුවට වඩා හොඳයි. So my perceived value is more than my expected value. I got something more than that. But value එක වැඩිපුර හම්බුණා නම්. So then I become a delight customer. But in marketing we say ළමයි it's not recommend to make customers delight if it's not sustainable. අපි සාමාන්‍ය marketing වලදී කරන ඔයා customer ව delight කරන්න ඕනේ නෑ ඇත්තට මේක sustainable නැත්තම්. මොකද ඔයා අද 15 minutes වලින් කරොත් හද ඊළඟ දවසේ customer එනකොට එයා හිතාගෙනම ඉන්නේ එයාට මේක 15 minutes වලින් කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. එහෙනම් ඔයාට ඒක කරන්න බැරි නම් දිගටම. So if it's not sustainable, so you should understand you should not make customers delight, right? So that is something you have to understand. So the customer satisfaction, so that is depends on the product's perceived performance as well as the expectations, right? So when we're talking about the satisfaction, as I already said, that it is always linked to the quality. Quality එකට හැමතිස්සෙම link වෙනවා. Quality එක කියලා කියන්නේ it has two perspectives. So the quality can be defined in the lens of customers as well as the producers. Producer කෙනෙක් සාමාන්‍ය quality product එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ defects නැති හරියට වැඩ කරන එකක් නම් ඒ කියන්නේ defects නැති වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි phones හැදුවොත් එකම series එකේ phone එකක් එක phone එකකින් අනිත් phone එකට වෙනස් වෙන්න බෑ. හරිද? අපි ඒ වගේ එකකට කියනවා එහෙම තමයි අපි producer කියන්නේ ඒක quality product එකක් කියන්නේ. ඒ වගේම අපි අනිත් පැත්තෙන් බලුවොත් customer quality product එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ ඒක user friendly නම් ඒක හොඳට perform කරනවා නම් whatever that he is looking from a particular product. So when we're talking about the quality, so you have to think about these two perspectives, both the customers as well as the producers, right? So when we're talking about the quality, so we have something called total quality management. So that is a particular concept that we study in the operation management. So we are not going to study but more in total quality management. So the total quality management, in a sense, the quality is not a duty of a particular party, right? So everybody in an organization should take part in this particular process. So it's an entire process, right? Total quality management එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ ඒක entire process එකක්. ඒක raw material ගේන තැනේ ඉඳන් product එක හදලා customer ගේ අතට ඒක යන කල්ම it's a kind of an entire process. You have to maintain the quality. So this is why we call it as the total quality management. So these are the concepts that you should know when it comes to the marketing. So this is our third question. So that is how do the consumers choose among the products and services? In that case, you have to understand the customer value, customer satisfaction, and the quality. So the next question is that how do the consumers obtain the products and services? How do they get the products and services? So normally it has a kind of a hierarchy. So we are starting from the exchange, then we move to the transaction, then to the relationship marketing. So the exchange in the sense ළමයි so normally බඩුවක් අපි පාවිච්චි කරනකොට බඩුවක් obtain කරන සරලම ක්‍රමය මේ simple system is that you are exchanging, right? So you are obtaining the product in return of something, right? අපි අර barter system එකේදී කියලා කියන්නේ ඉඟුරු දීලා මිරිස් ගත්තා කියලා කියනවා, right? So the barter system, so you obtain whatever your desired product or service from someone by offering something in return. හරිද? product එකක් දීලා තව product එකක් ගන්නවා. නැත්නම් service එකක් දීලා තව product එකක් ගන්නවා. So this is known as the exchange. මේ barter system එක කියලා කියන්නේ ඉස්සර විතරක්ම නෙමෙයි. So back then we have seen this particular exchange system in exchange system in trade, but still when it comes to the today scenarios අපි සාමත් දකින්න සමහර trade agreement වල exchanges and the barter systems තියෙනවා. ඔයාලට මතක ඇති අර crisis එක වෙලාවේදී අපි ඊරාන් එක්ක crude oil එක්ක tea exchange කරන්න ගියේ. So these are the exchanges. So you obtain a particular product from someone by offering something in return. And then we have something called transaction. So the transaction කියලා කියන්නේ trading වලදී product trade කරනවා වෙනුවට, so we takes the money as a face value. So you know when you are trading the product, so it's little difficult. So because you don't know actual the value. අපි දන්න ඉඟුරුද වැඩිපුර වටින්නේ, මිරිස්ද වැඩිපුර වටින්නේ. කොච්චර ඉඟුරු දෙන්න ඕනේද, කොච්චර මිරිස්ද, කොච්චර crude oil දෙන්න ඕනේද, කොච්චර tea word. So it's a little difficult for us to value. So therefore, the trade of values between parties. So that is giving a face value. So we call it as a transaction. So that usually involves the money in the trade. Right? So then thereafter we comes to the relationships. So normally when it comes to the transaction number, so there is a buyer and there is a seller. So seller sell the product and buyer purchase it, then the transaction is over. Then there won't be a contact in between the sellers and buyers anymore. එතනින් එහාට ඒ දෙන contact කරගන්න. එතනින් ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආවත් මොකක් වුණත් buyer තමයි ඒක settle කරගන්නේ. So there won't be any transaction. So you switch off the transaction, you say buyer, and then you leave off. You quit the in the transaction. But when it comes to the relationship marketing, so that is something different. So the relationship transaction එකක් වෙනකොට. කියන transaction එක වුණාට පස්සේ දිගින් දිගටම, so you create contact with the customer. So you ask from them whether you need a service, whether you need a post purchase service. පිට service කරන්න ඕනේද? දැන් අපි උදාහරණයක් විදියට AC machine එකක් හයි කරගත්තා කියන්නේ මේක install කරන්න ඒගොල්ලෝ එනවා, ඊට පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලෝ service කරන ඒවට අපිට service කතා කරලා කට්ටිය දෙනවා. So there are many relationships that happens, right? So the building a kind of a long term relationship with your consumers, so that is known as a relationship. It's not just with the consumers තමයි. ඇත්තටම organization එකක් ගත්තාම ඒගොල්ලෝ relationships හදාගන්නේ consumers එක්ක විතරක් නෙවෙයි. So you know that when it comes to a particular company or an organization, that they deals with number of stakeholders, right? So they get their raw materials from the suppliers. Once they produce their product, that they have to send it through their distributors and the dealers. So there are many stakeholders who are involved in the business. So you have to create relationship all sort of these stakeholders, right? So the consumers, distributors, dealers, and the suppliers. So these are the concepts that you know as an answer for the fourth question, right? So that is the how do consumers obtain product and services. So let's move on to the fifth one. So the fifth question is that who purchases the products and services? Now you already know that who purchased your products and services. So those are your customers. Saman customers la gattahama, so you know we talk about the customers and the consumers. Customers can whoever buy your product. It doesn't essentially need to use your product. හරිද? use customer කෙනෙක් ඒක අරගෙන ඔයාගේ product එක use කරනවා නම් අපි යට කියනවා consumer කෙනෙක් කියලා. So he potential buyers, right? So those are the core marketing concepts. So let's go to the first slide. So that is how we can use these concepts in order to create your definition on marketing. So when you're talking about the marketing, so first you have to understand. So the marketing is that you try to fulfill the needs and wants of the individuals and the group of individuals. So that means your customers, right? So you try to fulfill the needs and wants of the individuals and the group of individuals by through the products and services by exchanging them and creating value for them. So you can see that now all the concepts that we have studied are inserted in this particular definition. So what are the things that we have studied? So the individual and group. So that means the market, right? So the need and wants are also there. How the exchanging is there. Products and services are there. Value is there. So all the five concepts that we have studied is inserted in this particular definition. So the market is that you're delivering something in order to satisfy the individuals or the group of individuals in order to satisfy their needs and wants by creating and creating a exchange a product particular product and creating value for them, right? So that's what we call as the marketing. So when we're talking about the definition of the marketing, Rama, so there are several definitions for the marketing. So if you just go through number of books that you can find those definitions, right? So there are many scholars as well as many institutions. So you know when it comes to a subject that there are many institutions that govern that particular subject, that they give some definitions and new trends and new strategies for that particular subject. So when we're talking about the marketing, there are two main bodies that governs the marketing strategies as well as new concepts and the new trends in marketing. So we call those two institutions like Chartered Institute of Marketing and one second. Chartered Institute of Marketing and American Marketing Association. So that they provide lots of definitions as well as the concepts for the marketing. So here what I have extracted is the definition that is given by the CIA, Chartered Institute of Marketing. And also there are many definitions that has been given by the scholars. So among those scholars that there is a particular person who is known as the Philip Kotler. So we take him as the modern marketing guru. Actually, he is alive and he's still there. And so he came and he visited Sri Lanka for twice. Right. So most of the things that I use in my marketing lessons are based on his materials. So so the things, the course materials, even what I use here, are taken from the Philip Kotler's books and the references, right? So more simply, the marketing is that you deliver whatever the satisfaction at a profit. So this is what you have to understand. So when you're talking about the marketing, of course, you deliver their needs and wants through your products and services. You try to create a value. You exchange that product. You fulfill their needs and wants, and also you create profit for your organization because this is not a charity. So this is what we call as a definition of marketing. So if everything is there, so then you will be getting the marks, right? And so let's go to the next. So we talk about the definition and the concepts. And now we are going to talk about the component in a marketing system. So here it says the modern marketing system, but I would say this is not a kind of a modern marketing system. This is just a marketing system. So it doesn't matter whether it's a modern or the conventional marketing system, but all these components should be there in a marketing system, right? It doesn't matter whether it's a modern one or a conventional one. So when we talk the marketing system, Lamai, so you know that what happens in a firm, right? So if you just think about a firm, what is the primary function of the firm? Firm එකේ තියෙන primary function එක මොකක්ද? ඉස්සෙල්ලම product එක හදන්න ඕනේ. Product එක හදන්න නම් මොනවද ඕනේ? So you have to have the raw materials, right? Raw materials supply ගන්නවා, ඒවා process කරනවා. So you produce the products and service and then you take it to your customers. So this is what happens in your organization. So you have to understand, so whoever the people who take part in this particular process. So first we have the suppliers. So they are the people who provides you the raw materials for your production. So it's very important to have the suppliers. Suppliers rely on a very because you have to have the good raw material in a continuous manner to produce your products and services. Quality raw materials නැත්නම් quality products හදන්නත් බෑ. Continuously resources හැම්මෙන්නේ නැත්නම් raw materials හැම්මෙන්නේ නැත්නම් continuously අපිට products හදන්නත් බෑ. So this is why you need the suppliers. And also when it comes to the suppliers, so they do not just supply for your company, but also for your competitors too. So just think about a apparel companies, right? අපි හිතමු garments දෙකක් තියෙනවා කියලා garment දෙකක් ගන්නකො අපි හිතමු මේස් එක තියෙනවා බ්‍රැන්ඩික්ස් එක තියෙනවා හයිඩ්‍රමිනි තියෙනවා මේ ඔක්කොම සමහර වෙලාවට තමන්ගේ raw materials එහෙම නැත්නම් fabric yarns buttons ඕවා ගෙන්නන්නේ එකම supplier කෙනෙක්ගෙන් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So most of them based in China, right? So when we take those stuff from those suppliers, so what will happen? So then the supplier supplies raw materials for you and your competitors too. So it is important for have a kind of a good relationship with the suppliers because then they give the priority to your organization rather than your competitors, right? So then the suppliers are there, so they provide the raw materials for the competitors as well as your company too. Then thereafter, what happens? So you make your products, and then you have to take those stuff to your customers. So as I have already mentioned, so once you produce the product and services, it doesn't mean that you're gonna create profit. So you have to take them to your customers. So how can you take your products to the customers? So it's really nice that you can directly take your products to the customers. කෙලින්ම ගිහිල්ලා product customer ට ගෙන ගිහිල්ලා දෙන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඇත්තටම හොඳයි. ඒකට අපි කියනවා direct marketing කියලා. කෙලින්ම company එකෙන් යන්නේ customer ට. හැබැයි ඒක හැමතිස්සෙම කරන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. Because when you deal with large number of customers, it is difficult for you to directly deliver your product to customer. Therefore, what you have to do, you have to use some intermediaries, right? අපි අතරමැදියෙක් පාවිච්චි කරනවා. Market intermediaries පාවිච්චි කරනවා. So that might be a wholesaler, retailer, ඕන කෙනෙක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. broker කෙනෙක්, agent කෙනෙක්. So that might be come in any form. the main intermediary के through තමයි ඔයා ඔයාගේ product එක customer ට යවන්නේ. So when we're using the intermediaries, so you have to understand it's not just your company, but also your competitors also use the same type of marketing intermediaries. උදාහරණයක් විදිහට Highland Melbourne ගත්තොත් හරිද ඒගොල්ලෝ දෙගොල්ලෝම Cargill, Skills කියන හැමෝම retailers ලාම use කරනවා තමන්ගේ product එක customers කට දෙන්න. So that's also something important to understand. So when we're talking about the marketing intermediaries, that they play a kind of a vitally important role in marketing. ඇයි කිව්වොත් ඒගොල්ලන්ට පුළුවන් ඔයාගේ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එක ඕනම වෙලාවක බ්ලොක් කරන්න කස්ටමර්ට යන්නේ නැති වෙන්න. So therefore it is important to have a kind of a good relationship with your marketing intermediaries. Then thereafter you have the end users or the customers. So the customer might be an end user, a kind of a consumer, or sometimes that he might be buying it for somebody else, right? So then you have your end users. So this is what we call as a marketing system. So these are the people who involved in the marketing system. So it doesn't matter whether it's modern or conventional, but all these components, all these people who involved in the marketing system. So suppose that if it's a modern marketing system, සාමාන්‍ය modern වෙනවා කියලා කියන්නේ ගොඩාක් වෙලාවට මේක virtual system එකකට යනවා. හරිද? ඒ කියන්නේ ගොඩාක් වෙලාවට අපි තියාගන්න තැනකට වැඩිය සමහර වෙලාවට අපිට shop එකක් නෑ, but we virtually we sell our products to the customers. Right? So this is what we call, we have just a warehouse, right? So this is what we have to understand in modern marketing system because the form that the way that we deal with the suppliers and the consumers and the intermediaries might be totally different from the conventional marketing system, right? So let's talk about the marketing management. So the marketing management is always that where you going to manage the demand as well as profitable customer relationship. Right. So when we're talking about the marketing management, so here you always try to implement some programs in order to create the exchange with your target buyers, right? So you know that your organization, that it has an organizational goal, right? So when you're talking about the organization, it has a mission, and in order to support the mission, you have a lot of organizational goals. So this is why we have the marketing management in order to achieve the organizational goals, that is through your target buyers. So how can you do that? That is through demand management, right? So you know now what is demand. So that means that you have the needs and wants that is backed up by the purchasing capacity of the consumers. So you have to understand the finding and increasing demand, and also you have to understand the changing or the reducing demand. So your production has to be always aligned with this kind of a fluctuation. And then you have to create profitable customer relationship. So when we're talking about the customers, that they are the epicenter of your marketing system, you know that ඔයා organization එකේ profit එකක් create කරනවද නැද්ද කියන එක තීරණය වෙන්නේ ඔයාගේ customer වලින් purchase කරනවද නැද්ද කියන එක මත. So it is really important to attract the new customers as well as retaining existing customers. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් කියන existing customer කෙනෙක් retain කරගන්න එක ඇත්තටම අලුතෙන් attract කරගන්නට වඩා ලේසි. මොකද ඒගොල්ලෝ already ඔයාගේ product එක use කරලා තියෙන. ඒගොල්ලෝ ඔයාගේ product එක ගැන දන්නවා. So it's easy or it's beneficial, 5 times beneficial rather than retaining an existing customer. Retaining an existing customer rather than attracting a new customer. So that's what you have to understand, right? Then we are going to talk about the marketing management philosophy. So how the marketing came into this stage, whatever that you see in today's world. So when we're talking about, it has a kind of an evolution, right? අපි කියන්නේ අර revolution එක evolution එක මිනිස්සුන්ගේ කියලා. So just like that, marketing also has a kind of an evolution. So marketing has been started from a certain point and it came to this level. But there is something that you have to understand. දැන් අපි මුල ඉඳන් ආපු concepts ගැන කතා කරනකොට මුලදී use කරපු concepts පවා දාමත් use කරන වෙලාවක් තියෙනවා. So it's not something like the discrete evolution of අපි කියන්නේ human revolution එක human evolution එක වගේ නෙවෙයි. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒකේදී අපි කියනවානේ අර අපි ඒ කාලේ දැක් ඔස්ට්‍රලොපිතෙකස් අනම්මනම් දැක්කට පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලෝ එතනින් ඉවරයි. දැන් අපි ඉන්නේ homo sapiens sapien කියලා කියනවානේ එතනින් ඉවරයි. That there is a kind of a discrete end point. Right? When it comes to the marketing, you do not see that kind of a finishing line. Right? So even though we have started from that particular concept, so we can see some of the residuals, some of the combinations of those concepts in today's world too, right? So let's go in kind of an order, right? So these are like concepts rather than that. So this is why I'm saying that these concepts, right? So that they are not just historical. So there might be some of the organization that they use all these concepts even today, right? So most of the organization that we see today, that they have a kind of a combination of those concepts. It's a kind of a blend. ගොඩක් එයා මේවා blend එකක් විදියට තමයි පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ එක concept එකකට වැඩි. So anyway, so let's talk about what are these concepts. So first talk about the production concept. Production concept එක කියලා කියන්නේ ළමයි. So this is just before the industrial revolution. Industrial revolution එකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා මොකද උනේ? ගොඩාක් ටෙක්නොලොජි එක හොඳ නැහැ. machines ගොඩාක් තිබුණේ නැහැ. energy කියන එක වැඩිපුර තිබුණේ නැහැ. එතකොට මොකද උනේ? මේ කියන්නේ revolution එකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා ඔයා මොනව හැදුවත් ඔයාට ඒක විකුණන්න පුළුවන්. හරිද? ඒ කියන්නේ ඒ කාලේ කියනවනේ මොකක් හරි දෙයක් හදන්න. එතකොට කාර්මික විප්ලවයට කලින් අපි මේ කියන්නේ හරිද? මොන හරි දෙයක් හැදුවොත් ඒක ගන්න අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මිනිස්සු ඉන්නවා. So this is what we call as a production concept. ඒ කියන්නේ every time the organizations try to increase their production by reducing the waste as well as the the cost of production, right? So the consumers that they were available in order to purchase whatever you produce, right? So what you had to do, so you had to improve the production and distribution. So this is what we call as the production concept. පුළුවන් තරම් වැඩිපුර හදන්න කිව්වා. හදන්න බලන්න. හැදුවොත් ගන්න කට්ටිය ඉන්නේ හින්දා. So that's known as the production concept. So how about today's scenario? So you might be see that අපි දැනටත් එහෙම තියෙනවා වැඩිපුර මිනිස්සුන්ට demand එකක් ඕන දේවල් අපි වැඩිපුර හදනවා. ලංකාව වගේ නම් rice ගත්තොත් vegetables ගත්තොත් that we use the production concept. And also when it comes to the US, right? So there is a huge demand for the burgers, right? So then McDonald's as well as the Burger King, that they use the production concept, right? So that they produce more and more products, right? So that they try to reduce the operational time and they try to increase the economies of scale, and that's production concept is there. So then we have the product concept. So you have to understand the production concept. Always start with the factory level. Factory එකේදී අපි හැමතිස්සෙම production concept එක වැඩි වෙන්න ඕනේ කියන production concept එක කියලා කියන්නේ you try to increase the efficiency. You try to increase the number of products that you produce through the minimum cost, right? So you try to reduce the waste, you try to reduce the cost, and you try to increase the production. So that has to be always start with the factory. Operation එක process එක. එතනින් තමයි start වෙන්නේ. So then there after the production concept, we thought about the product concept. So that is also right after the industrial revolution. The industrial revolution එක පස්සේ මොකද උනේ technology එක ටිකක් දියුණුනා energy concepts ආවා. අපි හිතුවා right production එක වැඩි කරනවා විතරක් නෙවෙයි, we have to think about the product too. So you have to think about product quality because the consumers favor the products that offer more quality and more features, more performance, and everything. So you started to talk about product concept, product quality. So the product quality is also start with thing in the factory level. Factory के तमाम आप the technology का use कराने हो, features add कराने, everything. So that start in the factory. So we always try to add features for the product and improve the quality of the product. Right? සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මේ product concept එකේදී අපි කියනවා සමහර වෙලාවට organizations වලට අමතක වෙනවා customer ගේ requirement එකට වැඩි features add කරගෙන යන වෙලාවල් තියෙනවා. අන්න ඒ වෙලාවදී අපි කියනවා so that is what we call as the market myopia. Market myopia කියලා කියන්නේ. So you are adding just the features and you try to be the top in the market and but you forget but you ignore the customer requirements. Right? So that's known as the marketing myopia, which is not something good, right? So let's forget about that. Anyway, the product concept එක කියලා කියන්නේ features add කරලා product එක ගැන හිතනවා. අදටත් අපි බැලුවොත් technically tech savvy products like Microsoft, Google, Apple, so they always use this product concept. Right? So with the marketing concept, they use product concept too because that they always try to be the top in their industry. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ mobile phones ඒගොල්ලෝ try කරනවා top technology එක තියෙන තැන ඉන්න. So mobile එක ඒගොල්ලෝ try කරනවා top එක තැන ඉන්න. So that's known as product concept. And then it comes to the selling concept. Selling concept කියලා කියන්නේ, so this is right after the industrial revolution. Now we have the technologies, we have the economies of scale. So we have mass assembly line. So production is really high. So you have large number of products, more products in your hand. Now know that you have influence the consumers to buy your product. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි influence කරේ නැත්තම් අපි කිව්වේ නැත්තම් අපිට මේ හදපු ටික ඔක්කොම ඉවර කරගන්න හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ. So you have to induce the customers to purchase your product. So that is known as the selling concept. Consumers will buy your product only if the company promotes it. Right? So that is known as the selling concept. That is also start with the factory level. ඒ කියන්නේ factory එකේදී assembly line දැන් efficiency එක වැඩි කරා දැන් products ගොඩක් තියෙනවා දැන් මේ තියෙන ටික ඔක්කොම විකුණ ගන්න ඕනේ. So to do that you have to use the promotions and you have to use the selling concept, right? So that's what we call as the selling concept because customer won't buy your product unless you promote them or influence them to buy your product. Then we have the marketing concept. So this is the turning point, right? So when we're talking about the marketing philosophy, so this is the turning point where your starting point change from the factory level to the customers, right? මුලින් අපි දැන් කතා කරපු හැමදේම පටන් ගත්ත factory එකේ. හැබැයි marketing concept එක ගත්තම ඒක පටන් ගන්නේ ළමයි customer ගේ. ඒ කියන්නේ so you look at the customer and you produce what the customer want, right? ඉස්සෙල්ලා අපි කලේ අපි හැදුවේ අපි customerට වික්කා. දැන් අපි හදන්නේ customerට ඕන දේ. So this is what we call as the marketing concept. So we focus on the needs and wants of the target markets and we try to satisfy them, right? So better than our competitors. So that is what we call as the marketing concept. So if you look at companies like Coca-Cola, that they have a kind of an holistic marketing approach. They produce what the customer want and they use number of promotional methods rather than the selling. So that they have the public relationship, that they have the sponsorship, that they have the sales promotion, everything. So this is what we call as the marketing concept. And also there is something called a societal marketing concept. So this is the last concept, which is known as the societal marketing concept. Societal marketing concept කියලා කියන්නේ ළමයි මේකේදී ඇවිල්ලා දැන් අපි ඉස්සෙල්ලා කතා කරේ factory එක ගැන විතරයි. ඒ කියන්නේ company එක ගැන කතා කරේ. So we talk about the products as well as the company. So we always think about company's profit. And then the market concept, we thought about the company's profit as well as customer satisfaction. In the society marketing, Lama, that there is another pillar that we add to the marketing. So that means the community. We think about the company, we think about the customer as well as we think about the community too. So when you do a business, you know that there is another party that might impacted by your business, so that they do not directly involve, but they also impact by your business. For example, you just think a particular garment factory or Coca-Cola factory that start in your area, right? Coca-Cola බොන්නේ වෙන කට්ටියක්. Coca-Cola හදන්නේ එතන company එක. එතකොට ඒ අවට ඉන්න මිනිස්සුන් බලපානවා, because you might dump your waste into the nearby river, and the way that you, I mean, the air pollution that you make, so that impact towards your business. So that's a kind of negative externality. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට කිසිම අදාළත්වයක් නෑ ඔයාලගේ business එක. හැබැයි යාලට impact එකක් තියෙනවා. අපි ඒකට කියන externality එකක්. හැබැයි ඒක negative. සමහරවිට positive වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. මොකද ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ බඩු ටික ගෙනියන්න ඕන හින්දා ගමට තියෙන පාර හදනවා. So it's a kind of positive one. So you have to think about the society too. So you focus on the needs and wants of the target market as well as the society's well-being, community's well-being, community or social welfare. So this is why we talk about the අපි කතා කරන්නේ CSR කියලා, corporate social responsibility කියලා organizations කතා කරන්නේ. So that's a part of societal marketing concept. So you have to think about the society too. So when we talk marketing management philosophy, so that we have started from the production concept and the product, then the selling, marketing, and the societal marketing concept. But if you look at whatever the organization that you see in today's world, that they are like combination of these concepts. Some of them have the production, some of them have the production plus marketing, some of them have the product and marketing, right? So there are many combinations, right? So this is what you should know when it comes to the marketing concept. So when we talk about the marketing concept, I said that the significant change or a turn has been taken from when you were moving from the marketing concepts to the selling concept. So the marketing concept එක ගත්තාම ඒකේ starting point එක වෙන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම factory level එක. marketing වල starting point එක වෙන්නේ මොකක්ද? factory එක. හරිද? අපි sorry marketing නෙවෙයි, selling වල starting point එක වෙන්නේ මොකක්ද? factory level එක. So you have the factory, so you produce the products and product more and more products. So the focus on towards the existing product. පුළුවන් තරම් මේ ටික විකුණලා විකුණපු එකෙන් profit ගන්න තමයි හදන්නේ. So your starting point is the factory, your focus towards the existing product, you try to sell them as much as possible. So you use the selling and promotional tools, so you are selling them or influencing them to buy and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, so that you're looking to have lots of profit, that is through selling lots of goods and services. So that is known as a selling concept. On the other hand, when you're talking about the marketing concept, so your starting point is the market. So you're thinking about the whatever the customer needs and wants. So that is your focus. So you produce them. And then you're using the integrated marketing, right? So rather than the selling and promotional tools, so you use many other tools in integrated marketing, right? So you try to create the profit, sell කරන විතරක් නෙවෙයි අපි customer satisfy කරනවා. ඒ satisfy කරන තමයි අපි profit එකක් create කරන්නේ. කොහොමද customer කෙනෙක් satisfy කරනවාම profit එකක් එන්නේ? කොට ඔයාගේ customer ආයෙ ඔයාගේ product ගන්නවා. ඒ වගේම ඔයාගේ customer ඒක recommend කරනවා වෙන කට්ටියට. So then it expand your sales. So you try to create the profit through the satisfaction. So this is the difference between the selling and the marketing concept, right? Then when we talking about the society, right? Societal marketing concept. So we said that there are three pillars. You have the consumers, we have the company, as well as the community or the society is there. අපි consumers ලගේ satisfy කරනවා, he needs and wants fulfill කරලා satisfy කරනවා, company එකට profit එකක් හම්බ වෙනවා, society එකට නැත්නම් community එකට මොකද වෙන්නේ? human welfare එක හම්බ වෙනවා. Okay? So then we have new marketing challenges, right? So when we're talking new marketing challenges, so what are the marketing challenges that you have? So that as a marketer, so when you step into the world, that when you deal with the real scenario, real practical world, the business world, that there may be lots of challenges that you face. So those challenges also make the opportunities for you too, right? My challenges කියලා කියන opportunities වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So let's talk about these stuff. So you first we'll talk about the globalization, right? So you know now when we're talking about the globe, we say that the globe is a kind of a single market අපි කියන globalization එකේදී මුළු ලෝකෙම අපි එක market එකක් විදිහට දැන් ගන්න. Because the trade has been liberalized. ඒ කියන්නේ trade open trade එකක් තියෙනවා. අපිට ඕන තැනකට trade කරන්න පුළුවන්, import කරන්න පුළුවන්, export කරන්න පුළුවන්. trade barriers ගොඩක් අඩු වෙලා තියෙනවා. Therefore, we say that globe is a kind of a one single marketplace. So therefore, most of the time that we don't know that where that particular product coming from. So we call this as the stateless level. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි දන්නවා දැන් Toyota අපි කිව්වට Japanese product එකක් කියලා අපි දන්නවා manufacturing plants ගොඩාක් තියෙනවා California වල. So therefore we have to understand that we do not know actually where the product is coming from. And also the Nissan has an alliance with the Renault too. And the Tata has an alliance with the another one, right? So you have to understand that they are uh, merged and that we are in a kind of a level which is known as global market level. So therefore, so the market is that they have many opportunities, right? ඉස්සෙල්ලා ලංකාව ඇතුලේ විතරක් නම් business කරන්න හිටියේ දැන් trade එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන් export market එක ලොකු market එකක් තියෙනවා. So you can go to a global market. So there are untapped customers and you can go there. So the globalization is something very important. And also that there is a challenge because when you deal with the other customers that you have to understand the difference between the local market and the international market. And then the changing world economy. So, just before the COVID, we thought that the US can control everything, and then everything changed, and the Chinese and the Indian people came into the market, that they play a kind of a huge role in the world economy that you can realize it, especially when it comes to the Chinese market, right? So you have seen that how the BYD has made an impact towards the Tesla and also the EV market and the changing world economy. And also right after the Trump's presidency that you might have seen how the taxes might have changed and how that might impact towards the global trade. Global trade එකට tax impose කරන එක කොහොම බලපායිද? කියලා tax impose කරනවා කියලා කියන්නේම ළමයි restriction එකක් වෙනවා කියලා. Trade restriction එකක් කියලා කියන්නේම so that reduce the economic growth of the world. Probably that might increase the economic growth. I mean the loss economic growth එකට අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙනවාම තමයි ඕනම කියන්නේ ටැක්ස් එකක් දැම්මට පස්සේ හැබැයි ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ අර US වල අඩු වෙන ප්‍රමාණය අරකට ග්ලෝබල් එකට සාපේක්ෂව අඩු වෙන්න පුළුවන් හින්දා යාට ඒක වාසියක් විදිහට දැනෙන්න පුළුවන්. Right? But anyway, so when you are imposing a tax, you have to understand so that impact towards the world trade. So it says that due to the Trump's tax regime, tax for reforms, that the global economic growth might reduce from 1 to 2%. So that's how it has been calculated. So you have to understand all these stuff and also the changing world economic like you so as a supply chain that you know the importance of the Chinese market, that they have a huge supply chain and all these stuff. So it gives you a challenge because you cannot think about your production without the Chinese market. So that is the truth, right? So this changing world economy has to be taken into your consideration. The ලංකාව වගේ ගත්තාම ලංකාවේ customer garment factories ගත්තාම apparel industry එක ගත්තාම suppliers සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම base වෙලා තියෙන්නේ China වල. ඊළඟ customers ගොඩක් base වෙලා තියෙන්නේ US වල. So you cannot drop even a single party, right? So therefore you have to understand the changing world economy so that how it might impact towards you. So suppose if a particular country put a kind of a regulation by saying that, okay, I'm not ready to trade in dollars, that you have to trade in my own currency. So that might severely impact towards the business as well as the US too. And also the ethical concerns, right? So there might be some of the ethical concern, right? So in here, Sri Lanka, now we cannot use the child, the kids for the advertisement, that there is now regulations, right? So there are ethical concerns in the child labor market as well as some of the products are prohibited to trade here, right? So you have to think about these ethical concerns. And also when you sell some of the tobacco products as well as alcohol products, so you have to mention, for an example, in a cigarette packet in Sri Lanka, that 2/3 of the product should display that how harmful it for the customer. So that is something important, right? And then we have to think about the technologies too, right? So the technology has given a lot of opportunities for the marketeers as well as a lot of challenges. So when we're talking about the global mobile usage, you know that more than two-thirds of the world population use mobile phones, right? So, and 50% of them use, more than 50% of them use smartphones. And also, it says more than 50% of the global population that they had access to the internet through the mobile devices. So, the information කියන එකට මිනිස්සු ගොඩක් exposed වෙලා දැන් තියෙනවා. So, that's also kind of an opportunity for the marketeers. Now, it's really easy for them to target their focus towards their target customers and sell their products to the target customers, that it's easy when it comes to the promotion. But also you have to think about the customers privacy information, right? So when the customer provide you some information, so you have to always keep them for yourself, but do not expose them for the others, right? So when you're talking about this information disclosure, එක තමයි දැන් තියෙන ලොකුම ප්‍රශ්නේ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ, because when it comes to the individuals, right? So that we always keep our Google footprints up when we purchase something or when we go there. Now people know that if I want that to get your phone number, so it's just 5 minutes enough for me to find it, right? So there's a kind of a huge network, right? So when you go somewhere, so the Google knows where you went, right? So because you have used the Google map and everything. So this is what you have to understand, right? So, and also the artificial intelligence, right? So that has made a kind of a huge impact towards the education industry as well as other marketing field. And also when it comes to the non-profit marketing, fundraising කියන එක ගත්තහම ඉස්සර මාර difficult there. But when it comes to the today's market, so it's really easy for people to raise the funds, because even when you raise the fund for a particular person or a particular cause in Sri Lanka, that you can get the funds from far away in different countries or across the seas, that you can get the funds to your project, right? So that is through this I mean the improved technology, right? අපි fundraising වල දැකලා ඇති ඕන තරම් fundraise කරන මේවා තියෙන්නේ කට්ටියට ඕන කට්ටියකට දාන්න පුළුවන් අපි Facebook වල Instagram වල දානම නම් තැන්වල දකින්නේ fundraising campaigns. ඒ වගේම සමහර වෙලාවට අපි දන්නවා චයිනා වල තියෙන පැන්ඩා කෙනෙක්ට කන්සර්ව් කරන්න UK වල ඉන්න ළමෙක් fund donate කරනවා. So there are many methods, but you have to understand so that easiness has made many fraudulent activities through. But the frauds would in the probability to value, right? So these are the opportunities and the challenges that the marketeers have in their hand. So these are the questions. So please write the answers in a Word document and save it. And I'll give you a link at the end, and you have to submit it, right? So I'm giving you like 30 minutes right now in order to answer these questions. So you have to answer them in a one Word document in your own work, and then type it, and then you have to upload it into the link that I'm going to give you later, right? So when it comes to these slides, all the slides are, I'm not quite sure that whether it's available right now, but I'll make it available by tonight, right? All these slides will be there. So please answer. So I put the link, and so you have to submit it just before 12. So I give you a time right now. So from 8 to 8:30, just answer these questions. And then again, we will be starting the lectures at 9 o'clock, right? So from 8 to 8:30, you have to answer the questions and get ready to upload. And from 8:30 to 9, I'll be giving the break. And then at 9, I'll be starting the lectures again. Okay.